Hi, everybody, and welcome to this exciting episode of the Next Level Women podcast. I am so thrilled about our conversation today because I have a very special guest. Her name is Virginia Elder, and she's going to teach us how to grow our businesses using podcasting. And I love this topic so much, so I really cannot wait to dive in. Welcome to the show, Virginia.
Thank you for having me, Joy. I am excited to talk about this. My favorite topic as well.
Yes, me too. Okay, so why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us what you do?
Yeah, thank you. I am Virginia Elder. I own a business called Podcast Abundance. We are a boutique podcast production firm, and I personally specialize in podcast strategy as far as ensuring the show supports your business, whether that is through direct client attraction or whether it's through um, making partnerships with the people that you interview or whatever the proper strategy should be based on your business model. Everything's custom. But I really love just helping people use their show to actually build their business.
Wow. Oh gosh, this topic is so close to my heart. And okay, we're gonna nerd out on podcasting, but before we go there, I want you to tell us about your journey. How did you land on this niche? The reason I ask is because I know so many entrepreneurs struggle with nailing down a niche. So talk us through your entrepreneurship journey to where you are today.
Yeah. So, what I found works for me is truly this intersection of education, experience, and passion. So, rewind with me for over 10 years now. I was working, my corporate career was in accounting, and I did audit. I live in Texas, so I did Texas state sales tax audits. Sounds really fun, right?
Yeah.
But I'm the type of person that can find joy in almost anything. And I really loved getting to know the different CFOs at different businesses that I was working with. So while I was working corporate, I was also starting my family. So going through pregnancy, having a little baby, having our second child. And during that time, our personal finances got really stressful. Regardless that my husband and I both had great jobs. Neither of us made over six figures, but like as a combined household, we were okay. But we also were helping my mom through some personal things as well. And it just seemed like our money was being spent faster than we could earn it. And that was very stressful. So I turned to personal finance podcasts to help me. And I had, about a 45-minute commute every day. And I would just listen to these, money coaches, financial advisors, anybody that was teaching me how to get out of debt, how to budget, how to invest, how to start investing. Because, of course, I did not get an education on that. And I would go sit down at the computer and do whatever personal advice. Of course, they say it's not advice, which I
Yeah.
would, but there were things that I knew, okay, that makes sense. I can do that. I can set up a savings account and put a certain percentage of our income into this. I can set up automatic payments. I can set up automatic withdrawals into my investment account. There were actions that I knew I could take, and over time, those made a huge difference. We ended up paying off $80,000 of debt in 3.5 years,
Wow.
completely changed our family situation and really reduced the stress in our household. So at that point, I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to help other moms do the same thing. And I started doing personal finance coaching. I launched a podcast because that was the tool that I found that helped me. And about a year later, lo and behold, I had financial advisors asking me how I launched a show and would I produce their show for them. And that's where everything just really turned because I very quickly saw that, like, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be the financial guide that's out there, but I'm here to elevate the financial guides' voices and that was so much more comfortable to me. I'm actually not that comfortable being the person on screen on social media. Um, I much prefer a back seat and to be able to strategize and work with the technical details. And that has been how I've built this business. That was around 2019 when I got those first few financial advisors and money coaches and CPAs and that type of financial professional as clients for podcast production. And that's kind of where we've gone ever since.
Wow, that is such an incredible and inspiring story.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I must say congratulations because having to like have a young family and create the life and success you've created is incredible. I want to go to podcasting because I personally love podcasting as well. My personal growth, just like you, came through podcasting. I found a lady called Brooke Castillo, the owner of the Life Coach School. That's where my love for podcasting came from. And when I launched my business, I kind of knew that I needed a place for people to understand how I think, to understand my philosophy, my processes, almost like give people a chance to fall in love with me. And so that's why I love podcasting because it's long form content. You're not under pressure to deliver your content in 3 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever the length of time is. People get to spend time on a podcast to know who you are. And so that's why I love podcasting. And so I want you to share from your experience what you've seen is the power of podcasting to transform a business.
Absolutely. So, for my own business, the podcast was a great way back when I was doing money coaching, of course, like brand new years ago, right? Like 2017, 2018. I launched the podcast because that was what helped me. Like, I kind of knew, okay, there was this connection here. So, while my first 30 episodes didn't capture new clients because nobody knew who I was, what they did was continue to nurture people who already knew me. And it gave those contacts I already had a tool that they could then share with another mom because that was my ideal client at the time, right? Now, on the production side, it could also work that way for like a, let's just say a CPA or one of my clients that launches a brand new show. A lot of times, the initial strategy is to share it with everyone who already knows you, right? And that is the tactic. It's either to share more about your style, your delivery, your thought process, your services, and give them something they can digest on their own time. They don't have to show up to a live meeting with you or attend your webinar at a certain date and time, but they can listen to the podcast on their commute, while they're walking around the track at their kids' practice, while they're doing dishes, anytime. And what they can then do is if your services are not right for them, but they just care about you because they're your friend, they can share that podcast on social. They can share it directly with another person who maybe mentions, a problem that they're having, and they say, "Oh, you know what? My friend does this podcast. You should listen to her," right? Um, and beyond that, once you get the word out to the people who are already on your email list or who you're already friends with or who already follow you on social media, then the next step is that this is an online piece of content that literally anyone in the world can find based on the way you title your episode. The show title itself should be really clear and telling as to what you do and what your show is about. And if someone happens to search for that topic or that thing, you very well might be the perfect provider for them, whether it's a service or a product, whatever it is that you're doing. And in time, generally it's kind of like a year or 18 months or so of podcasting. That's where you really start to see the transformation. And it starts to really become a funnel for people to discover you, to visit your website, to discover an episode of yours and then go follow you on social and start really kind of checking in on all the different pieces of content that you're doing, because that's what people are really looking at these days. It doesn't matter if you have a website anymore. Anybody can have a website practically for free. Might not be a good one, but you can have it, right? And so buyers now, part of their due diligence process is, can I find you on social media? LinkedIn, Instagram, X, whatever, Pinterest, who knows? Like, and I'm not saying you have to be on all those things, but that's what buyers are looking for. Like, where are you? And when was the last time you posted? So, like, does your business still exist, or is the last time you posted, was that like a year ago? Maybe you're not in business anymore if you're not posting, right? And then the other piece is the consistency, which, ugh, I hate that word, but that is kind of what they're at least looking for, the illusion of consistency. So I highly recommend using scheduling platforms for your socials, for your emails, for what, like, use those scheduling features, because we're all going to have a day where we're not well or not online. And but that's what buyers or potential ideal clients are really looking for, is that you're showing up over and over, providing information that they need, and at least some baby steps to help them start to solve their problems.
Wow, that is truly incredible. And like, there are two key things you mentioned that I want to point out, especially to our audience listening. You said that we should plan for 1 year to 18 months. That's the time frame you gave. And when I started, I wish someone had said this to me, and I wish I had listened more, because you see people start a podcast and in the next 2 weeks they're expecting to get clients from that podcast. Mine, I was releasing episode every single week for a whole year before I had one client come from my podcast. So I love that you said 12 to 18 months. So people know that this is a long term strategy, but once it starts to work, it starts to rain. So thank you so much for saying that. The other thing you mentioned, which I so can relate to, is almost being omnipresent. I call this automated omnipresence. And when I was researching, I found something called Google's 7-11-4 rule. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that. And so it's a research by Google that says that for someone to be comfortable to buy high ticket, they need 7 hours of content over 11 platforms and four different touch points. So 7-11-4, which is incredible. And so I love how you said for us to leverage scheduling tools. So, for example, this episode we're recording can be 30 reels. For example, I could use AI to split this into 30 reels and schedule that on my Instagram or on my TikTok, anywhere I want to show up with reels. And so I so love how you said clients will do their due diligence. They're gonna go on Google or ChatGPT and Google your name. So if they put your name on Google, what's gonna come up? If it's just 30-second reels, is that enough for people to spend thousands of dollars with you? Yep, you get to decide, right? So thank you so much for saying that. Now, at the beginning, you said something that really caught my attention. You said there are various business models for podcasting. So I want you to explain to us, because you're the expert, right? So tell us what those business models are.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are several different ways that you can be strategic with your show. And most of the time, when people talk about ROI from their podcast, that's return on investment, because you are investing time, even if you're not investing money. There is an investment here. And, maybe it's equipment, time, and then you're doing your own show. That's fine. But there is always a point where you're going to want to elevate, and then you are probably paying for production at that point, or studio time, or a fancier camera, or whatever, right? So, but most of the time when people are talking about ROI, they are talking about clients. The ROI in the form of, you know, website traffic or speaking opportunities or other ways that you do receive ROI from podcasting, but they are harder to track and you have to be really intentional about tracking those things. It's so much easier to say, oh, someone called and said they found me because of my podcast. Well, that's very clear, right? So you can try to have this direct client acquisition from your podcast where you are speaking to problems that individual listeners have and you're basically breadcrumbing ways that they can get into your business. Usually that's done with lead magnets, sometimes like a quiz or a social, like, hey, comment this word and I'll send you the link. You see different tactics online. And those are all opportunities for you to capture their email address. And then I hope you have an email sequence set up where you are continuing to educate them, continuing to share your philosophy on business with them, and eventually they become a client. Some emails in there somewhere need to share about your services and pricing and tell them the benefits they're going to receive, which is key in all your content. But that's the direct client acquisition model. For some businesses, this works. For some, there's something else you can do, right? For some podcasts, they focus on getting guests on who are their ideal client. And they might be doing just a plain interview. And depending on the topic, like there's a angle that they can take with the podcast where they can interview this person. And then after the show, they're able to say, hey, that was a great conversation. Here are my services and here's how I could help you. And so that's kind of like a direct pitch to guests tactic there. The other strategy is that when you have someone on to interview, or maybe you're even guesting on their show, you are looking for partners in your
Mm.
business, like a referral partner. So, for example, if I were to have a SEO expert on my show that's called Podcasting for Financial Professionals, ideally, if one of my client financial professional people was needing SEO help, I have just introduced them to a partner provider. Hopefully, it's someone that I've developed a long time relationship with and I have knowledge of their pricing and how they work, and I trust them enough to establish this referral partnership and on their client list too. If they have people that ask about podcasting, I hope they would refer them my way. So that's three right there, three different strategies that you can use your podcast to support your business. And there are many more. It just really depends on your goals with your business, your level of maturity in your business already, like how long you've been in business and how many clients you have and kind of what your plan is going forward. And typically, what I do when someone new comes to me is that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the website, I'm looking at the email sequence, whether they have a show or not. I'm digesting all of their content and I'm looking at what are the gaps and what can we do to fill them, and basically coming up with the opportunities that they have to piece things together or to funnel people over to a certain lead magnet more often or to get something more well known that would draw more attention to their business.
Oh my gosh, this is so good. And you're just speaking my language. So, what you just described is that we need to see this as an ecosystem. So, the podcast is not a standalone. And I love that so much because, like, recently I've had people who sign up as my clients, and when I always ask all of my clients about their journey, right? That's how I know which of my marketing is working. And this particular lady, she said she found me on a webinar. She signed up for the webinar and she said she's been on my email list. She's been listening to my podcast. And she tells me about how she always looks forward to my emails. I send 3 emails per week. And she says, even though she has thousands of emails that are in her inbox that she hasn't read, for mine, she always looks out for them. So I want our listeners to take from what you just said is that it's an ecosystem. So just having a podcast as a standalone might not give you the results if you don't have a way of funneling your listeners into your email list and then nurturing them. I love that so, so much. And I think podcasting for me, I feel like it's very introvert friendly. I'm an introvert. When I started, I was so afraid of being visible on Instagram or all the other channels. But just me and my microphone, I could talk and give value while I was building my confidence to be able to go on video. So I just want to also mention to listeners that audio podcasting is a very great way to get your message out if you are an introvert and you want to kind of preserve your energy until you're ready to be visible. So, is that what you see in your business, Virginia?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of noise in the space right now about video podcasting. And even for my business, we say we are a video first podcast production company. So the noise that you're hearing out there is, this company is adopting video podcasts, and this company is now a host of video podcasts, and, all these studies about which is better, audio or video, whatever, right? Just like throw all of that out the window. The thing that everyone should and could do for their business is the thing that they feel comfortable with and the thing that they will stick with. So if it is a force to get yourself on video and it is exhausting and tiring and you hate it and you're confused about the equipment, it's like a mess, don't start there. Start with audio only. You can record in the dark after your kids go to bed. I mean, it does not have to be this like perfect production, right? You can get a $50 microphone and a computer, and I think you can pay like $100 per year for your actual like podcast host account. And it can be this very low cost DIY start, right? To something that maybe you're just testing it out. Like, do I like this? Yes, I'm going to try to share amazing content that's all about my business that will really help people. But maybe you set this internal metric of, I'm going to do this every other week for 1 year. And if I like it, I will continue going. If I don't like it, then I have permission to stop, right? Because in the end, I think the goal in life in general is to do more of what we like and less of what we don't. And that's across the board, right? Like if you don't like running, but you like to lift weights, hey, I mean, lift weights all the time. Have fun, right? Enjoy your life. And I think business should be like that too. So, I have clients to this day who have moved to video, who started in video. I also have clients who started in audio that have moved to video. I also have clients who have started audio, tried video, and then went back to audio. So, there's not a wrong way. There's not a wrong answer. You need to do what you can stick to and provide longevity for your marketing.
Yes, that is so true. And I love that you help people because, in my experience, I see people come to me and they say, "Oh, I would love to start a podcast." And they have all of these fear around the amount of work involved. So I so love that this is the value you provide to people so that if someone is listening right now and they're like, starting a podcast sounds like a very good idea, but I need help. Okay. So please, can you tell us how do you help people? And for people listening and they're like, okay, I want to take the next step. What will that next step be for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the way that I've built this business is that, I mean, you heard my story. Like, firsthand, I was producing my own show, I was coaching people, I was building the business and producing my own show. And so I saw firsthand how very stressful that can be because you kind of have like two jobs at that point. You're the business builder and the marketer, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. And so having the skills to produce audio, video, take out the ums and ahs and reduce background noise and all this stuff, but also to write excellent show notes and to craft social media posts and do all the things that would help grow a show. It really just makes me happy to be able to relieve that stress for other business owners. So that's the point, is that you can run your business, work with your clients, go to networking meetings, go to, do what you need to do, and all you have to do to have a podcast is to literally record and send me the recordings. And from there, we have already discussed an agreement. And so my team already knows whether we're just producing your episodes, whether you want social media reels, and kind of like to the extent of which we are helping you, because we can go crazy or we can keep it simple. And of course, budget matters there too. And but that's the purpose, right? It is so challenging to grow a business as a solopreneur, to grow a team, even, especially if you're like a physical business and you're looking at multiple locations. You are working. It is
Yeah.
hard. And so I do not expect you to also be your marketing strategist and your podcast producer and your SEO expert when it comes to YouTube or anything else. And that's where we hope to relieve all of that pressure. So there's two ways to work with us initially. And depending on whether you want full service production or you're curious about what gaps exist in your marketing already, I start everyone out with essentially kind of a marketing audit. And what we're really looking for there is marketing clarity. So, as I mentioned, I'm looking over your website, your podcast, if you have one. If you don't have one, that's okay. I'm looking at your lead magnets, your emails. I'm going through all your content. And I'm looking for not just the language that you're using and how it connects to your ideal client. So I'm kind of identifying your niche and your tone and the way that you help people. But I'm also looking at if the things you're putting out connect to your lead magnet, or like how you're bringing those people into your business ecosystem, or if maybe there's a gap there, right? If there's no call to action on any of your social media, and so people just literally watch your reels and think you're cool and don't do anything,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a common mistake, even with podcasting. It is
Mm.
very, very common not to have a clear call to action in your episodes. So whether you're just looking for the strategy piece, I would work with someone one on one personally to fix that within their business, or we can talk about actual production. So we can launch shows or we can take over the production of shows, whether you've had it produced by another company or you've been DIYing your show for some time. We always love to have those conversations about, okay, what is most difficult for you and where do you want help, because then that helps identify the value that you want to spend on your show, right? Like if you absolutely hate editing or you will not learn how to edit, you refuse, then clearly you need some production assistance
Ah,
and you'll want to pay for that service, right? So I hope that helps.
yes, yes, it does. So then, where would the listener go to like take the next step? Is it on podcastabundance.com?
Yes, yes. So you can listen more if you're curious to my show is called Podcasting for Financial Professionals. And then that show and all of, the audit and our services and everything are listed on podcastabundance.com.
Okay, but even though your podcast is called Podcasting for Financial Professionals, you work with other people, right? Like the listener doesn't have to be a financial professional to go listen to your podcast.
Right. So I find that even if you don't view yourself as a financial professional, you're probably dealing with more finances than you realize in your business. And some of your episodes are going to be about money, whether it's money that people spend on on your services, whether it's, something having to do with marketing and you're talking about spending for your business. There's going to be some financial conversations in there anyways.
Yeah, so true, so true. Oh my gosh. I've already listened to a few of your episodes and I cannot wait to continue to listen to you because your show is such a gold mine. And listeners, I'm gonna grab all of those links. It's gonna be in the description if you're watching us on YouTube, and it's gonna be in the show notes if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcast. Okay, Virginia, before I let you go, I want you to think back to your 21-year-old self. What words of wisdom would you have for her?
Hmm. I mean, it's going to probably sound cliche, right? But I think it would be more of like, you don't have to follow the traditional path just because other people say that this is the way you have to do things, or you have to go to school, get a job, do this, in this order. um I would encourage her to rebel.
Mm, wow, that's powerful.
Mhm.
Wow, that's so
Just be
powerful.
different, be, like, rebel against the system. You don't have to
Mm,
do it that way.
yes. Wow. Yeah, that's the same thing I'll tell my 21-year-old self because I was always towing the line, trying to be the good girl. Yeah,
Mhm.
so good. Thank you so much, Virginia. It's been a joy having you on our show. I'm gonna grab all of those links, put them in the description for our listeners to go take advantage of this amazing offer that you have. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Joy.